All right, it looks like we are going live. Welcome, everybody, to the Royal We live chat. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, everybody. It's good to see you here. And happy that you are with me on this Monday night. This is the Royal We live chat, and it looks like we're up and streaming. We're rolling. As soon as I see some sign of life there, let me know that it sounds okay, that you can hear everything. And we'll go ahead and get started. How is everybody doing tonight? Happy Monday. Hey, Brian, what's going on? It's good to see you. And doggone it, I knew I forgot something, and I did. I forgot my headphones, so I won't be able to hear anything. Hey, Salon Savvy, how are you? Doggone it, I forgot my headphones, but that's okay. I'm going to get them in right now. I'm going to get my headphones in, guys, because I forgot to bring them. So I'm going to have to make a quick little phone call real quick to get my headphones in. How is everybody? Happy Monday night. I see Brian, Salon Savvy, Diane, Shantae, hi, Tasha, Tanya, hello, Mike Wilson. Well, I don't have my headphones tonight, so that's a bummer. So tonight what we're going to do, and nobody's able to bring me my headphones right now. So what we'll do is instead of taking phone calls tonight, any questions, leave them on the chat board. We'll talk directly from the chat board. Now, hopefully you all had an opportunity to see some of the videos that I recently posted. Last night, I talked about fear, and I just want to try and get up some of those videos so I can bring up just some of the things that was important about those videos and some of the topics and some of the questions that people might have, and I'd be interested to know some of your questions. But yeah, so last night I posted a topic on having fear. Uh Fear in narcissistic abusive relationships, and the discovery for me is that when I tried to wrestle with the fear that I was experiencing from narcissistic abuse, I had to come to the realization that the fear that I had been dealing with wasn't at all a result of being afraid of the narcissist. It wasn't that at all. I was more afraid of what I was being pulled into and what I was becoming by being around the narcissistically abusive people. And I think that says a lot. There's something to that that we all struggle with. I think that um, if we really consider why we're afraid, I really feel that darkness, that evilness that we feel we're up against. It's not that we can't handle ourselves. It's we are scared to be pulled into that and become like that ourselves. Hope that makes sense. So that's what I talked about and in last night's video. And I'd be curious to know your guys' thoughts on that video. Tonight, I am going to be uploading a video. The video's already done, so I'm going to upload it very shortly here. And I'm going to be talking about actually something that is very difficult. A lot of people might not agree with it, and we'll see what you all think. But there's a necessary element of narcissistic abuse. The video is going to get into the necessary uh, causation that narcissistic abuse presents in our lives. And the necessariness of narcissistic abuse has everything to do with the fact that it's a part of the balance that's in this world. There is good and there is evil in this world, right? If there's no evil, if there's no narcissist, then you wouldn't have the opposite. It wouldn't exist. And so one of the things I explored in my own life and in my own thoughts is that, I wouldn't know who I was called to be and what I'm supposed to be doing had it not been for the reality that I was touched by this evil, by this narcissistic abuse. I had to experience it. if I did not experience it, then how would I know what good is, right? And I'm sure I'm not trying to sound uh cliche in this. I probably comes across as being a little cliche, you know. How would you know what good is if you never experience bad, right? But there's truth to this. There's truth to this. And one of the interesting things that I uh I came across in my understanding of the world we live in is for those of you who are a part of Royal We Fellowship, which is every Saturday morning, you'll know that we've been going along from the beginning of Genesis, and it seems to me that narcissism, that evil intentions, that wickedness has always been, in fact, more so then. It was more widespread then than it is now, even. Uh, well, I don't want to say that because I truly believe it's the same. I wouldn't say that these days are darker by any means. It's always been this way. We see that uh, we see that a lot of the characters in the ancient literature, Abraham, Isaac, they were face to face with some really dark and disturbing issues, right? Isaac and Abraham both had to lie about their wives when they went into these foreign areas. Why? Why would they have to lie? The reason was is because and how did they lie? Well, they said they were his wife was a sister. And there's a lot of theological debate. Well, it was his sister, so it wasn't a lie. Well, let's just be real. He withheld the reality that this was his wife. The reason is because Abraham and Isaac, their wives were beautiful. And what we discover is they said that they were afraid that they would be dragged into fighting and conflict and possibly even killed because people at that time would kill another man and just take the wife. So when we look at this as being the reality, since day one, since the earth began, since the time of Abraham, we know that this darkness, evil always existed. You want to go even further than that, I would say that the evil part of the world first. I believe that evil, that narcissism was actually here first. Darkness was on the world first, and it's almost as if the light, if you will, the good is an intrusion. In a lot of ways, we are an intrusion. I should make a video about this. How do you guys feel about this? Think about this idea. What is it that stops humanity from doing whatever they want to do? I would say that, in American society, in most societies, we have laws and consequences in place. And even with laws and consequences and jails and things like that, people still are out there doing whatever, breaking. We watch on the news as hordes of people go bashing through buildings and steal stuff and torch their own towns. And w- you have to ask, would you ever partake in that? Probably not. Would I? Never. I wouldn't. So there's definitely at the core of human existence two sides. There's a destructive side, wants to destroy things. There's a side that doesn't want to, wants to build things, if you will. Seems like it's always been this way. It's always been this way. And what's interesting about it is the ones who want to destroy things feel just as right in their desire to destroy things as the people who want to build things and feel they have the right to build things. In other words, they don't distinguish that what they're doing is wrong. Much like narcissists, they don't distinguish what they're doing is wrong. They cuss and scream and yell and devalue. To them, it's not wrong. To them, you trying to enforce goodness on them makes you the wrong. It makes you the intruder, the intrusion. So it's interesting to look at it this way that light and goodness can actually be an intrusion in darkness. And when we know that darkness is afraid of the light, it wants nothing to do with it. You know, when we look at the ancient literature where it talks about how God created the earth, and I'm not going to get into when or how or what it looked like when God created the earth, but by the time we get to Genesis, where our story begins, it has this to say. It says that the earth was dark and formless and void and chaotic. That was the that was the way in which the world was. That is what it looked like. That was what its status was. God then intruded on that status and said, "Let there be light." Caused light to come into the situation, which was opposite of the darkness and the void that was there. And he separated, divided them. And so the darkness had to give up space, if you will. Very interesting. Darkness doesn't comprehend light. That's right. Yeah. Yeah. That's cool, D. By the way, really missed your Saturday. Missed your Saturday, D, for Royal We Fellowship. But I'm sure you were doing some great things. Ah, you're in Alabama. Very cool. I want to address something here. Mike Wilson up here. Mike wrote this. I almost hit my dad in my 20s. I scared myself because it was powerful to put him in his place. I promised myself to never get that angry again. That was before I knew what narc abuse was. Very fascinating that Mike had this experience of almost hitting his dad in his 20s because he realized that he had power. But the good part about what Mike said is that he realized this and it scared him, the fact that he had this much power. This is that fear. This is the fear that I talked about in the video last night. You know, I choose not to aggressively bully people because I'm afraid of that power in a way. What it would look like, would I know how to control it, right? It seems to me that most narcissists aren't able to. They miss that. This is where we get into how narcissists lack empathy. They get that power, they experience it. And rather than allow it to scare them and say, whoa, I have power here, I could cause damage, narcissists like it. And they're, whoa, what was that? I want to do it again. Uh, that is right there is the difference in being able to understand empathy versus non-empathy. Very fascinating. Very fascinating. And to the unempathetic, goodness is an intrusion. Goodness is an intrusion. Yeah, Christy says, I'm peaceful, but I think narcs want to try to make us punch them in the face. Quite literally. Yeah. And this is the hardest part about narcissistic abuse is because, in the relationship with them, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. If you choose to not fight them, they just blow up in anger and then they make up stories about you. They make up stories about how mean and rude you are. They make stuff up. If you do, they point you out and they tell the truth about you, that you are mean. When they're making up stories about you, what's difficult about it is they really believe the stories they're making up about you. This is what makes the smear campaign of narcissists so devastating, is because they really believe what they're saying. When they tell people that you are mean, horrible, selfish, abusive, toxic, even though you haven't done anything, they really believe that. They believe that. When I went to when I visited with my siblings, my in-laws, and I addressed that the girl, one of the youngest girls in my of the in-laws, 17 years old at the time, and you know her hatred of me was real, and I couldn't quite understand it. I didn't get it, other than I tend to be I kind of march to the beat of my own drum. I like to be creative, intuitive. I like to talk about deep things, right? This is just my character. I'm real cool. I like to be cool. I like to believe I can get along with anybody and have a conversation. So something in amongst all of this, she hated. She hated. Maybe because I was getting too close and she felt I was buttering up her other siblings. Who knows? But at 17, she displayed such a viciousness and uh, such an attack on me. The cussing and the name calling and the swearing and one time I was joking back with her at one of their family events and she got really extremely mad and threw drinks on me. And it's taken me a long time, but I can't help but uh, realize, much like what we're talking about here, that they're almost trying to get you to react. They're trying to get you to fight with them. They're trying to get you to yell and scream and cuss because what I didn't realize about this 17-year-old girl is she was attacking me viciously. She was also telling everybody in that family what a mean person I was and selfish and judgmental and how I didn't like any of them. And it was that in combination with the yelling and screaming at me that broke me down. I didn't know how to handle this. It was a 17-year-old girl, just vicious. I hadn't felt that kind of hate. I didn't get it. It caught me off guard. I didn't understand it. I didn't understand how it influenced everybody else. It broke me. But at the same time, it was necessary in my life to break the attachments that I at that time felt I needed. Move my butt out from California, get here to the Midwest, further the royal we, begin the royal we, actually. And, so it was good. It was good. Hey, thank you, by the way, so far. Thank you. Speaking, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Speaking Cantonese. Also, Tanya. Uh, thank you. Appreciate that, Tanya. You are amazing. So, anyways. All right. Well, what's going on with you? I'll stop mumbling and talking about stuff and I'm curious to know what your thoughts are. If you have any questions about some of the videos, some of the things that you've seen, have some questions about understanding the fear that you have about yourself, how we all have. I think that it's important to understand that we all have a ability to be cruel. We have, you know, I back when I was no. Christy's got it the wrong way. Are you serious? Good is supposed to be discriminate against evil? No, we're not supposed to be tolerant of evil here. No. We're not tolerant of it. What we're doing is looking at the evil we've experienced in our life and understanding the necessity of it in order to put us where we belong in life. That's what it's all about. Okay? So it plays its role. It plays its role. All right? And as far as being tolerant of it, you cannot eradicate evil. You can't. So by default, you have to not be tolerant of evil, but you have to accept it, right? If you can't change evil, because you can't. I can't. Uh Evil, darkness, if you will, as we talked about earlier, is established even in the ancient literature. It's established by God. It's established. Deuteronomy, again, says, I am the God of good and of evil, of light and of darkness. He's proclaiming his establishments. This is established, and this is what it is. But at the same time, he's saying you are not to be tolerant of this. You're not to be tolerant of it, but you will not eradicate it. You will not get rid of it. I will not get rid of it. You know, um, oh no, Christy, no, nobody here is being hateful. Not at all. We're not, nobody here is being hateful. Um, What I'm referring to is just the understanding of the reality that evil's a part of this world. That's it. And I believe the biggest war is that it's good versus evil. Yeah. Oh, I see what's going on. So we're having a conversation about witchcraft. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Thank you, Nicole Phillips. I'm not sure what's going on with the witchcraft conversation, but it sounds like somebody was talking about witchcraft. Tanya's saying that witchcraft is a part of Wicca, protected under religion of U.S. law. So, I mean, listen, there's all kinds of religions that are and belief systems that are protected by law. Islam is, uh, that's the right to believe, what you want to believe. Islam and uh, uh, Buddhists and uh, Seventh Day Adventists, Baptists, and Christians, and Catholics. So many different widespread sects. So, yeah, not sex like sex, sex, sects, right? Sects, divisions, if you will, whatever you want to call it. Um, I know. Okay, so John Van Meter asks a question. Kevin, is men going their own way bad? It's a great question. Um, no, I don't think that's bad at all. I don't think it's bad. Personally, John, I think it's probably lonely. um, you know, I I love I love the woman, but at the same time, having experienced, and I know as a guy, um, a lot of men. Here's one thing that people don't understand: narcissistic abuse and evil is equally distributed through men and women. We've got to get past this thing where it's like, well, men are narcissistically abusive. No, listen, it was a 17-year-old little girl that crushed me. And I remember it actually took me back to a time in high school. There were a couple of girls. How many of you know that mean girls, right? Um, just brutalized. They used to follow me around school in high school, pick up things and throw things at me and laugh. And they thought it was funny. And it hurt quite a bit. Throwing rocks, and one of them threw a like a some kind of an apple juice box or something at me. And I don't for the life of me remember. They were in one of my classes, and they just decided they didn't want to like me. And you know, and I was a kind of a social butterfly in high school, so I got along with a lot of people. But I've experienced just as much bullying by girls as by guys. It's kind of sad, you know. Um, it is sad. It is sad. So John, to answer your question of men going their own way, uh, I think that it's makes sense. I think it's just as men going their own way is probably just as much, a thing as women who just want to have, equal work rights kind of, I guess, it's they the reason women want to a certain amount of women want to have those equal rights is so they don't have to deal with men, right? They work and earn their own living, and they don't have to submit and be a wife. So I think that men going their own way is the same thing, and it's the opposite. It's like, well, fine, whatever. Then I'm going to work and do what I want to do, and it makes no sense to join my economics with a woman who wants to do whatever she wants to do, and so you know what I mean. So there's this extremes on both sides of an unwilling to compromise. Makes sense. There's lots of conversations going on. Let's see here. Wikipedia. D brought up Wikipedia on witchcraft. Back on the witchcraft. Oh, talk about love bombing. Eliza says, I'm Wigto. Instead of Migto, we're Wigto. John wanted to get my goat. So Eliza says, I'm Wigto. Women going their own way. There you go. I think it just fits. I think that I don't think men going their own way is a start of something. I think it's a response to something, right? It's like, well, it's kind of like we have no choice. I think it's kind of a bunch of men throwing in the towel, going, I'm done. I'm done working because I work my butt off so that I can come home to a wife that works just as hard and makes her own money. And when I get home, she's out shopping instead of giving me sex. And that sucks. And I'm done. I'm tired of it. Not only that, but she gets the kids and the court, you know what I mean? She gets favored because she's the woman and they have no idea that, she's throwing spoons and cups and plates at me and I can't do anything about it. So I get it. I get it. It's a response to that. At the same time, women going their own way and the whole women's liberation movement, if you will, comes from that the older idea. There was a lot of effort put into men being the ones who would work, which meant the women would be at home and their job was to have sex and be a mom. And, you know, and if they didn't have sex and be a mom, then the guys would abuse them, right? Yell at them, scream at them, throw things at them. So what we're really seeing now is women just, they're not doing that anymore. I'm a person too. I'm not just going to be here and have sex. And and I think that, you know, a lot of men fell into this place. Well, a lot of people fell into it where it was okay. There's a lot of women that wish they could go back to how that was. Man, I wish that there's probably a lot of women that would say, man, I wish my husband did make more money. Because when women's liberation happened, men stopped being paid as much because a lot of that went to women. And so there's a lot of women out there that preferred to be able to stay at home, talk on the phone with their friends, raise the chitlins. When the husband comes home, have 5 minutes of sex, and then that's it, right? They were comfortable with that life. But a lot of women were not. A lot of women were not. And so we're just kind of seeing it. Seems like we're seeing it backwards, reversed. Let's see. Thank you, John. I appreciate it. I feel like I'm all over the place. I don't know if anybody was hearing a word I said or if everybody's just on the chat going at it, talking about witchcrafts and surprised I'm not jaded. Oh, I'm sure there's things I've been jaded with. I think the sexual revolution has messed up society in many ways. Equal rights is fine, but kids' families are messed. Colleen, elaborate on that. Elaborate on that. What did the sexual revolution? I'm guessing what you're talking about. Well, first of all, I'm gonna have to look up what sexual revolution is. I'm not sure. Is that the hippies, the 70s? People just sleeping with each other? Is that the sexual revolution? Is that what it was? Is that why my dad and his brothers went to California from the Midwest? That's how I was born. That's why many of us have come from broken homes and split families because we're all kids. We are all the output of a sexual revolution. That's kind of uh what I get. But I think you're right. I think in a lot of ways it did mess things up. Equal rights is fine, but kids' families are messed. Yeah, true. True. You know, thank you all for listening to me. My parents were hippies. So were mine, Tanya. My parents were hippies. I think, but not as extreme. Equal rights and sexual revolution have messed up our role definitions, causing any chaos, conflict. It's broken to begin with. Yes, we need to redefine what family is in the first place. You know, it's interesting. I wonder, I wonder, when we talk about sexual revolution, um, is I'm is we're studying the Bible in the ancient literature, we're working our way through Genesis. We don't see sexuality as being a stimulant, if you will. Um, it seemed like the goal, sexuality was for at that time, was to have children. They were expanding. In the ancient days, the had the better. Uh, more protection, the more that you became. You were blessed by how many children you have. At some point, I'm guessing the sexual revolution, what it taught is that it's not about having children. It's not about having a family. It's not about the protection and the blessing and the wealth of being a big family. The sexual revolution is just about the sex, just the act. And that's it. And from this act, we, I guess, fooled ourselves into thinking that that's joy. That's what enjoyment is in life, is just sex. And from that birth pornography, or pornography birthed that. And so it no longer became a desire to have families and to become wealthy and establish as families. The goal was to have sex, which is really weird thinking because it's very short term thinking. I mean, if you only think about sex, you're thinking about an act that lasts 5 to 10 minutes. I mean, compare that to thinking about the possibility of having 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 children. But it seems like society has geared the family towards being limited on the number of children and has made it just about the sex. Very weird. Very weird. Wow, One Hope for Heaven has a very interesting take on it. One Hope for Heaven says the CIA made up it's a government issue making up women's lib in effort to destroy the basic family unit and to get women out of the homes. Fascinating. Wow. The Kid Incredibles movie said it best. If everyone is special, then nobody is. Huh. Interesting topics tonight. For real. For real. For real. My friends. With that, I am going to go ahead and sign out. Good night, everybody. I'm about to run out of battery, so I'm going to go ahead and end it now. I'll be back next week. Bless you all. Good night.